I want to back up a little bit to some of your history, because you weren't always a public person and a journalist and someone that's, staked out controversial positions. You were a private citizen. You were in banking at first, right?
Yeah, boring. Yeah,
What
yeah, I was.
possessed you to go from a normal job to somebody that's out there putting their face with their words?
I know. I was just, a sane industry with good prospects and good income, and the enormous growth. It just wasn't for me. I thought I want to go into an industry where there's massive job losses and and where I'm going to be the tiniest of tiny minorities. It wasn't completely planned. It was fairly accidental, but it was a happy accident. And I did a decade in finance, and I think I enjoyed most of it. But by the end of it, I just had enough. And uh, I had my child at that point too, so it sort of gave me an opportunity to rethink things. I went back to university. I did my master's, which was again, that's kind of cemented some of my thoughts about higher education and just how many junk degrees there are, just completely pointless, just
Yeah,
saddling
you've
students.
basically
Yeah.
said that you think higher education is a waste altogether, right?
Oh no, no, not a waste altogether. I just think in Australia, in particular, anyway, there are so many of these junk degrees that don't qualify you to do anything. That saddle students with big debts, raise their expectations, and they come out and they're no more qualified for a job than they when they went in. And a lot of it is just lefty indoctrination posing as education. It's just absurd. And I'm all for having even more degrees for doctors and nurses and architects and
Sure.
accountants, things that actually teach you how to do a certain job. But bloody uh, masters in gender dance therapy or something, it's just crazy. Anyway, so yeah, it was all. Again, it wasn't planned. It was by chance and just um, finding myself, I guess. So that's such a wanky term, but anyway, here I am, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, so here you are. It's worked out well. We connected on Twitter, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so, and I thought, wow, here's someone else across the world who gets it, who I sense cares about the same things I care about. I see you every now and again. You fight with some of the haters. I'm not big on fighting with the haters as a general
Yeah.
rule, and I see them spewing all sorts of genuinely racist, awful things at you. They often
Mm.
they often think that you're another nationality than you are, or religion,
They
or
always
whatever.
think I'm
The-
Indian or Pakistani. Yesterday I was copying. In fact, yesterday I had someone. I told them I'm not Indian because all their sort of abuse was framed around me being Indian or Hindu. Like never, don't know anybody there. Had never been there. I've got no, and they just refused to accept it. They're like, no, you are Indian, accept it. I thought it was hilarious. Look, it is a really fine balance. I tell people, if I'm giving them advice about Twitter, it's like, don't feed the trolls, don't acknowledge them. They're attention seekers. They're desperate for any sort of attention. So don't give them what they're looking for. But on the other hand, every now and then, and I know my followers enjoy it, it's good to, call out some filthy hypocrite and just highlight the idiocy and hypocrisy and vileness of some of these social justice warriors who think, you know, their morals are pristine and who think they're better than the rest of us, but they're quite often fairly vile human beings. And I'm happy to mock them. I'm happy to, you know, highlight them to the followers and let them have their fun with them. But I acknowledge the other way, your way, which is just don't acknowledge them because I get literally some days thousands and thousands of mentions, and I can't even read all of them, and I certainly don't respond to all of them. And it does seem like sometimes the overwhelming bulk are decent comments, intelligent comments that you're not acknowledging, and you're acknowledging the lunatic,
right.
and that seems to be sort of counterintuitive. But I think we've got to highlight the mentality of these people, particularly when they pretend to be morally superior to the rest of us.
Right, so that's an interesting piece of this because we've got the social justice warrior class that are moralizing all of us and telling us how racist we are and all this nonsense. And then at the same time, there absolutely is a piece of this alt-right thing that I've talked about a bit on this show, where I get it. They're Pepe the Frog and Harambe, and they're trolling everybody. And then they get Hillary to talk about the frog. And they're just internet meme posters. They're shit posters, and they want to upset everybody. And I think they're perfectly harmless. But I also do see the real white nationalist stuff. And I don't know how much of that. So my question to you really is, do you think it's just, I go back and forth basically between thinking that it's healthy when they get this stuff out, because then it's not just hidden and secretive, and even though they're anonymous, whatever, they're getting it out. Versus on another hand, in the last year, I have seen more blatant, true hate than ever before online. So I'm not sure which one, whether I think this is actually healthy or not.
Yeah, I haven't set my mind to that too. I'm not sure. I mean, it does seem like an absolute sewer at times. Twitter, you know, more so than any other social media forum. It seems to be just a bile-filled sewer full of people who are miserable, who just want to fight. And
Right.
uh, um, yeah, those really nasty Nazi types, I haven't encountered too many. I've had a few, and I've just blocked them. But they've been very few in numbers as far as the ones attacking me. So I'm not sure of the size of that population. I don't think it's anywhere near the size of the other side. But yeah, any sign of them isn't healthy. And again, I think they should be treated with absolute disdain. They should be called out. They should be mocked. And that's what I tend to do. I don't try to, convince these people. I don't try to re-educate them. I just mock them because that's all they deserve. They don't deserve your time. They don't deserve, and I think Twitter's a really dumb forum for in-depth arguments. You just can't have them. It's just that's not the place for uh, discussions.
Yeah.
You try to frame your point of view in as fewer characters as possible. And if you're actually trying to have a proper discussion, I just don't think that's the forum for it.
Yeah. Do you see a new center sort of lining up all over the world? Because I think even a year ago or so, people were barely talking about this. I'm talking about the people that are not the far right, true white supremacists or racists or whatever you want to call them. And I don't like using all the buzzwords. And not the regressive left and all the SJWs and all that, but that there is some sort of new center lining up, and it's because of the internet, because people like us have been able to connect. My friend Ali Rizvi up in Canada, who's an atheist Muslim, coined the phrase "the new center." He said that's the new home politically. Do you sense that this could actually become a political movement?
Absolutely. I think political parties are starting to recognise what the electorate cares about, and you've got to think that Republicans have to regroup over the next decade and recognise that they abandoned their base. That they had so many people so desperately unhappy with them, and so eager to jump on the Trump train, and in Australia as well. In the last election. Something between 1 or 2 million 2 million voters, and that's a significant figure here. We're a small country. Of conservative voters took their vote elsewhere from the mainstream conservative liberal national coalition. So I think there is this new centre, and where it is the question. I think it's a far more to the right than the media class would want it to be and acknowledge it to be. I don't mean they're right wing. I just think they're, in their economic point of view, in their attitude to borders and immigration and national security, they're far more conservative than the media class would like them to be and acknowledge them to be. So I think the politicians have no choice but to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
They can't ignore it. Their political survival depends on it. So, but whether you actually see the emergence of a new party is something else to ponder. I'm not sure about that, but there's talk of that in Australia. There's talk about an actual new conservative party that will bring in all these sort of minor parties voters. But it hasn't happened. It's something that's been talked about, but whether it actually eventuates is another
Yeah,
question.
I think it's interesting that, a second ago you started to say that they're more right, but you really meant conservative, and then you
Yeah,
fixed
yeah.
it.
When I
But
say
but
red, I do interchange.
but no,
Yeah.
no, no. But I bring that up only because it's like even people like you, to make your point, you still want to be so concerned about the language, and I feel that too because we're so just under this thing where if you say one thing wrong and imply that the conservatives are really far right or that everyone will be all over you, and that what a crazy place for people like us to be in.
Oh, it's insane. It is. People are just so hypersensitive, and so looking to be offended by something or take something out of context that you do sometimes. Even if someone who doesn't give a stuff about political correctness, you find yourself qualifying things and explaining things like over explaining things. It's. I guess we're not immune to it either. We live in that world, and we have to acknowledge it.
I wish we were over. I see people on Twitter telling me sometimes, Dave, we can see it. Get over yourself. Like, just stop. But I'm still trying to be a good person that exists in 2016. So my last question for you is taking everything that we've discussed here. What do you think the best thing for people that are hearing our messages, whether they're a little more right or conservative or a little more left or liberal or whatever it is, for all of these people that are hearing this and seeing the same trends that you're talking about all over the world, what is the best thing that they can do to help fix some of this stuff?
Be brave, be bold, say what you think. I think that's the message to take out of it. Don't be afraid. Don't be bullied into silence. Don't feel like your point of view isn't worthy of being aired and discussed. And don't worry about, if you say something, you're going to be unfriended on Facebook by someone you went to school with 20 years ago. I just think
Right.
people need to be braver and have and be interested. I wouldn't force anybody to become political nuts, but if you care about this stuff, get interested, read different sources, find out what's really happening, and don't be shy about putting your 2 cents in.
Yeah, well, that's what I say on the show every week, so I will co-sign that one. All right, well, Rita, it was a pleasure. I'm so glad we finally connected. And we were supposed to have you a couple days ago, and our internet blew out. I think somebody's watching us, and they didn't want us to connect.
It was. I don't believe that was just coincidence. There's obviously some sort of left-wing conspiracy to silence us. I don't think there's any other explanation possible. It's
It's
just
definitely some sort of left-wing conspiracy. Anyway, you guys can follow Rita. It's at Rita Panahi on Twitter, and you can follow her writing over at the Australian Herald Sun. And Rita, it was a pleasure. So we'll keep doing this in 140 characters.